Welcome to Lift, where we lift business entrepreneurs, leaders, and communities. I'm your host, Sarah Layson, and today I'm so honored to be here with Dr. Abigail Simone, who leads the Honors Academy at Houston High School. She's been the director for several years. She's also a mom, an incredible leader, a mentor to many. She's a teacher, teaches Latin, I believe, right, at Houston High School. Just an incredible person. I've had the privilege of watching you lead all of these young people in the rooms that I've been in with you, and it really is a fun experience and fun thing to watch because a lot of these young people are looking for someone like yourself. So thank you so much for getting on today. I appreciate it.
Thanks.
So tell me a little bit about your background. You're a lifelong Memphian, is that right?
I'm a lifelong Memphian. I grew up in Fox Meadows.
Okay.
I was very fortunate to grow up in a very close-knit family. My grandmother lived around the corner. What's kind of neat is my family had a great group of friends where like the grandparents were friends and the parents were friends and we're friends and now our kids are friends.
A whole community.
And so having a whole community like that really of people with similar values and expectations really reinforces, the values that you want your family to have.
I grew up very similarly in a cove, and it was like an extension of our family with like 50 other kids and families. I mean, to where we would just run in and out of everybody's houses. That is a really fun way to grow up. Tell me, who shaped you as a leader? Like, what do you think laid your foundation?
I was really fortunate to grow up with a mom and a dad who had very kind of different leadership styles. My mom was the one she was a teacher. She had very high expectations. She really developed that curiosity and love of learning. And my dad was the guy who was like, let's invest in people and like show up and build those relationships. And so having that
two different
perspectives really helps build people.
So did you know you wanted to be a teacher by shadowing your mom? Like where did that?
Oh no, I did not expect. I did not expect to grow up to be a teacher. I just kind of fell into it. I was really fortunate to have a lot of great leaders that I looked to their example growing up. And there were two people. I went to UT Knoxville. The first leader I'll talk about was Dr. Susan Martin.
Okay.
I worked for her as an undergrad. She got a PhD before there was Title IX, and women were not really expected to kind of do that thing.
Yeah.
And so she
laid
really laid that foundation for many women and showed me kind of what was possible.
Yeah.
Which was really cool. She went on to be the provost at UT, and so having the front row seat to kind of watch her make that journey was really special. But I got into teaching because of another professor, Chris Craig, who kind of developed in me, and he saw something in me that I didn't see in me. Mm-hmm. So he invited me into his office one day, and I was like 20 years old. He's like, hey, there's a teacher who's out sick. I need you to fill in for her at an inner city Knoxville school. And I was like, okay. And so I just thought it would be like, okay, I'll go for a few weeks. Let's do this. No big deal. And it turned into like I finished out the year for this teacher. And so and you could think about like taking over somebody's classroom after they've been out for a while in a very challenging neighborhood. Mm-hmm. And he stuck right by. I mean, I'd go and like cry in his office, like, what am I doing? Yep. But he saw something in me that I didn't see in me. Yep. And, at the end of that year, I was like, okay, well, if I'm going to do this, I'm going to do it right. And so the next year I got to work with a mentor teacher who really kind of shaped who I became as a teacher. And so it's really neat as you go through your life to look at leaders and you kind of take something from every great leader that you see. And that's really kind of how I look at, I am shaped by the leaders that help shape
that came
me.
before you.
Yeah.
Well, I think it's interesting because you're talking about two different types too of leaders. One that was developing you, and then the other one really paved the way, right? And so there's several people that I would say have paved the way for me. I call it an opportunity map. Like they have mentored me because they've gone through the path, right, that I didn't know was even available. I didn't even know that was a path I needed to even walk on. Yeah. And then, but when I got there and I started walking the path, it's so funny how God provides all of these people that are leader developers that then develop you along the way and mentor you as well. I mean, you need both. You need those types of people on all of our, journey through our careers.
You might not even know if that's what's happening in the moment. I talk about, with the Honors Academy. So I was working on my doctorate and the Honors Academy was kind of building the process of through that process. And at the time, my principal was Lisa Justice, who had recently gotten her doctorate. Anyway, so the part of what you do when you go through the administrative process is somebody comes to your school from the university and is like, okay, tell me, like, did she count textbooks in the textbook room? And, did she watch the buses come in and do that process? And she shut that guy down. And she was like, why would I waste her brain on that? Like,
wow,
that's not her gift.
Not her gift.
Her gift is this. And I just remember sitting there, and I didn't realize it at the time. But there again, like, she saw something in me that I didn't see. And so that kind of gave me the confidence that, I'm on the right path. And I just need to keep going. And there are a lot of people in your life like that.
Yep.
And you just have to be willing to listen. And you never know, especially as a leader leading other people, you never know what you say will come back and impact somebody down the line.
So many people. Yeah. And as you were saying that, I'm thinking, have I been purposeful about reaching out to those people? Like, because listening to your story, I'm like, have I stopped to tell? I mean, we talk about gratitude and giving gratitude every day in our house. Yeah. And have I really stopped? I don't know if I have. I mean, there's so many people along the way. Like, every single year, there's somebody that is leading me or developing me. And I might not realize it at the time, but am I giving gratitude to that?
Well, and
love that you brought that up.
It's so funny that you say that. So in a kind of a full circle moment, I ended up as the president of the Tennessee World Language Teaching Association last year. And both Dr. Craig and Dr. Martin had been past presidents. And so it was like my conference, and I organized it all. And I invited them, but they were like, we'll be there. And your people show up for you, right?
That's special.
And so, and I don't think he had any idea, like, what I was about to do. And so, I just thanked him.
Yeah.
And you could just, he was overwhelmed a little bit. I was overwhelmed, but you're right, to have the opportunity. It's so important to say thank you to the people that got you there.
Because a lot of times they don't even realize
that they did
it. Yeah. So wait a minute, I'd have to ask, president of the World Language Association, tell me more. I need to get enlightened here.
So all the world language teachers in Tennessee get together and do kind of professional development and things like that. And so, I have been involved in that organization for a long time. And you know how sometimes, like, you get involved for a long time and then you're like, no, I don't want to do that right now. No, I don't want to do that. They got me in a weak moment.
They'll circle back.
They'll circle back.
They find the leaders.
Well, and this is a wild story about how you never know really what God's preparing you to do.
Yeah.
My doctorate was on leadership development, and so I studied school superintendents. I interviewed school superintendents and state legislators on educational policy and the race to the top, holding schools accountable for what funding they get. Anyway, long time ago, right? So I become the president of the TWLTA, and I'm coming to the end of my term, and the State Board of Education decides that it is going to consider getting rid of the 2-year world language requirement. And so suddenly all those relationships that I had built and all of that training that I'd had,
became leverage.
Yeah. Well, it became the moment that I needed to help shape, lead that effort to a successful outcome. And I didn't even realize until this week I was talking to somebody. So long story short, our organization really mobilized different people to kind of maintain that graduation requirement with the State Board of Education, and a lot of pieces had to come in place, and a lot of relationships had to be leveraged to figure that out, to figure all the pieces of that puzzle, and to have one message that it wasn't about keeping people's jobs, it was about what's right for kids in Tennessee.
Yeah. And being able to service all those kids.
And to being able to serve all those kids. And so, we successfully got them to set that aside. But I didn't realize until this week, at this conference I was at last week, how unusual that is. Usually efforts like that, when it gets to that point, are not successful, and people have already made up their minds. And so being able to put people in the right places
to get leaders.
Get the outcome that you need. Is a really important skill.
I think it's a very important skill for leaders at scale.
Yeah.
Because we often want, this is what I see, I feel a misstep for a lot of leaders. They want to do it all on their own, all by themselves. It's always a team sport.
Right.
and it's like finding out, because everybody, you talked about gifts. I've got a new role right now, and I'm trying to find everyone's unique gifts, and how does that unique gift, how does that help them lead one of the initiatives?
Yeah.
And how can I lead through them? Exactly what you're saying. I think most people try to go at it alone.
Yeah.
And they burn out, and they don't leverage, and then the initiative doesn't get pushed through because we're not leading through others.
Well, and it's not about you.
Not at all.
It's never about you. And I think that's one of the best things that my dad helped coach basketball, because he didn't have sons, and so that's what he did. And so that's one thing that he taught me about. You can either have your program, this is what you think's going to do, and find people to fit in your system, or you can look at the people that you have
and create greatness
within it. Take those gifts that they have and build something special around that.
Which is fun, because they have buy-in, because it's something that empowers them, and it's something that's innate in them.
Yeah.
And then it creates this momentum and energy.
And they may not even see it.
Correct.
Which I think is really cool.
Which is fun, because then they do start to see it on the other side. Yeah. And that's where, for you and me, like the impact of that, because we know what we're doing, right? Because you have that gift that I have. I love seeing things in people.
Yeah.
So tell me, your dad was a coach. Your mom was a teacher. Sounds like your grandmother impacted you quite a bit as well. Tell me a little bit about that.
My grandmother grew up on a farm in Mississippi, and the thing about farms in Mississippi is you have a bunch of kids so that you have people to work the farm. Yeah. She didn't. She had a brother that was 10 years younger, so it was like her working the farm, with her family. And so that kind of like work ethic she had an incredible work ethic, and she could do anything with like nothing. And
mover and shaker.
She was a mover and shaker. She played high school basketball when there's 6 people on the team. Like, it was just the opportunities in rural Mississippi in the 40s were nothing. Anyway, so she moved to Memphis during World War II and sewed airplane wings for World War II planes. Wow. Anyway, pretty cool. And so, but what I really learned from her is 2 things. I learned, probably 3 things, but 2 things was you have to work for what you get, and your hard work will pay dividends. And so I laughed because I was thinking about her this morning, and like people had to tell her to retire. Like they had to be like, it's time for you to retire. Like, and what's so funny is she was a seamstress and worked at Hancock's, and the manager didn't want to tell her. He was like, I'll just let her keep showing up. And I was like, no, you gotta tell her. And so he was like, but it's going to really hurt her. And I was like, sometimes it's just time to move on.
Yeah.
And so anyway, but she found other ways to keep serving. She was just used to working.
Yeah.
And
she wanted to
move. She found other ways to serve. And she was the kind of person that like in high school, I did theater and stuff in high school, and one day they were like, oh, we need like 100 vests, for this musical that we're throwing. And she was like, okay. And like a week later, she had like fit everybody and done it. I'm just like, just wild. I mean, but what a gift. That was her service, was her gift.
Yeah.
And I think the other thing that I kind of learned from her is like just small lessons. Like she was a great cook, and she was the kind of person that showed up at your door. If she knew you were hurting, she showed up at your doorstep with some soup or something, or tomatoes from her garden. And that idea of you show up for people that you care about and share a cup of coffee or whatever it is, and just really listen.
Yep.
Is very important.
It is.
And those people in turn will show up. Your real friends will show up for you.
Yep.
But even small things like her favorite meal was chicken and dumplings. And she would teach life lessons. You're like
around chicken and dumplings.
Around chicken and dumplings. And her life lesson around chicken and dumplings was don't stir the pot. Because if you stir the pot, once you drop the dumplings in, it messes up the dish. And so if you think about that,
life lessons. Well,
that is a life lesson.
Yes.
And so just in the everyday actions that you do, you show that leadership.
Yeah.
And you're building that culture within other people.
It's funny you say that. I've had a lot of people, because I told them I was doing a podcast on leaders and highlighting leaders.
Yeah.
And I've had several people that are like, And I'm like, the negative like connotation for some people around leadership is really fascinating to me, because I don't see that. Like I see everybody is leading somebody.
Right.
You just don't realize it. Right? I mean, and you're inspiring somebody, you just don't realize it.
Yeah.
And I think that's where, because of, I just think everybody's got opinions that leaders are only politicians.
Yeah.
And I'm like, that we have so many different people on the show that are leaders and doing all the different things locally or, in a small community or whatnot. So everybody's leading somebody. Something else you just said about your grandmother that I think is so true. When you use your gift for good or greatness, it's funny how those people that have tapped into that gift, it seems like those people have an infinite amount of time.
Yeah.
It's like they can do so much.
Yeah. And
people are, I'm sure because you're just telling her story, I'm like, able to do all of that in a week. you know? And I don't think people realize, like, if you really tap into what that gift is and you figure that out, you can do a lot with time.
Yeah.
Because you're using your calling is what it is.
Yeah.
So incredible woman. Sounds like she was also probably a spitfire and just kept
well,
moving.
but if you think about that, in the time that she grew up in, right?
She had to be.
Like, women couldn't own, couldn't put their names on their own checks.
Yeah.
I mean, and so she was kind of a young widow, and so to watch her, she had to do it. But those kind of leadership skills and the way that she served others, but didn't have to be in front of others, really shaped her daughter and really shaped me and really future generations of women, because she was doing what she had to do.
Yeah. And y'all saw her going through that in real time.
Yeah.
And not getting awards or accolades for it.
Right.
Like, there's so many different types of leadership. Like, it's not about awards and accolades, right? It's about modeling the skills and having the wisdom to understand that you're using your gift for that.
Right. Well, and if you think about it, like, when you grow up, there's always like the line leader, or like the leader of this, and just because you don't have to be out in front of somebody to be a leader. You can shape and think and build just by being a part of the process.
That's been my biggest struggle. I didn't want to do this podcast to tell everybody this, because I'm like, I don't want to have my face on things. Like, I just want to lead through people, because that to me is how leadership is done. And I am glad I've done the podcast because I get to talk to incredible people. The reason why I got behind the setup this way is because I got to tell everybody else's stories and it not just be about me, right? But I will say, as a line leader, I think I was like, I'd like to do that.
Everybody wants to be the line leader.
We're going to the water first. Got to go get my milk first. Your parents raised you with faith and a command to love your neighbor. It sounds like some of that came from your grandmother too. How has that principle shaped the way you lead people that think differently than you?
Well, I'll tell you, so my dad had an artificial leg, and he loved sports and had an artificial leg before the ADA. So there was not, the Americans with Disabilities Act wasn't a thing. So he brought me up with the indelible belief that, like, you can do it, and don't let anybody limit what you think you can do. Mm-hmm. And so because of that perspective, he had this great gift of finding everybody's strength on a team. And then he's like, if you take the kid and you see a strength in your team that's not there, but that kid has it, if you build intentionally, that skill in that team, it makes the team better.
Yep. So we were talking about gifts and plugging. He would plug. So you're saying your dad had a unique view of being able to look at the entire team, find that gift, plug that strength into the team, right? Yeah. And creating probably something really special. I would say probably a championship team, just because I think that is the winning formula. And
I think that he, did that because his friends showed up for him. They made sure that he was part of the team, because they saw how hard he was working, and that was his way of turning it back forward.
So your grandmother clearly loved to help people. Your mom loved to help people, and so did your dad. So you get it naturally, right? Yeah. Do you ever struggle with those that don't have that viewpoint? Like, do you struggle when you see people being selfish or stuck? Does that frustrate you? Frustrates me. I was actually on a coaching call the other day, and they were like, you get frustrated when people don't grow or see other perspectives. I was like, yes, very much so.
But, you have to keep what you're doing with honesty and accountability. And as long as you are acting in good faith with integrity and being honest, actually, you may, if you're really listening, the other person might be right. And being willing to put forth that honest effort and conversation may lead you down the right path, even though it's hard. And so being willing to put your ideas aside and go, no, that's really the right path, even though that is not what I wanted to do, is an incredible thing. And if you think about it, it's kind of a silly thing, but I call it the mop the floor test. Okay. Like, you're really looking for leaders who are the kind of leaders who are willing to mop the floor. Yep. So you think about it, an event, everybody wants to get up there and give that speech or whatever. Yep. But if that person is also willing to mop the floor and take out the garbage, that's the real leader in the room.
Totally agree with you. I've said that often because I love that in our office. I'll walk around and pick up up trash and, do those types of things. And everybody's like, well, you shouldn't be doing that. And I'm like, no, this is a team sport.
Yeah. Well, you're not too good for any job.
Absolutely not. and we're all in this together. Yeah. And my dad taught me that as well. I mean, my dad, started out doing mopping floors, and my mom worked as, I don't think I've told you this. She worked in the cafeteria at Shadlawn Middle School and worked her way up to work with Dr. Kite. But yeah, long story short, I mean, that's how I was raised. That's how you were raised. Yeah. And you're right. Those are the true leaders. They're not in it for the accolades.
Yeah, but they're in it because they want to serve and to make the community a better place. Yeah. If you think about, where we are in America sometimes and just go like, you really want to look for the leaders who are intentionally making decisions that make the future better. And
making decisions by going to talk to people and being willing to just listen.
Yeah.
Because, man, you can learn a lot when you just sit and listen to other people's backgrounds, stories. Yeah. Where they came from. It teaches me a lot. I mean, I intentionally try to do it at least once a week. It's like, how do I go get in a room where people don't look like me?
Right.
Because I need to go sit with everybody and I need to figure out different just perspectives.
Well, and being comfortable. And I think that's one thing that as Memphians makes us unique.
Yeah.
Is because, we grow up in a community with a lot of different people and perspectives, and not every community is like that.
No, it's a beautiful thing when you think about it. There's so many different cultural backgrounds here.
But you have to be willing to get out of your bubble.
Yep.
And sit with people through uncomfortable situations where you may be uncomfortable. Yeah. And take your kids.
Yeah.
Because that was a gift that my dad gave me was, so before he was coaching before the public-private school split. Mm-hmm. And so, I had to be as comfortable at Booker T. Washington as I did at Briarcrest.
Yep.
And so knowing how to be the cultural minority is a really special thing.
Oh, it's so special. And when you go and do that, it is awesome how it's received. And I walk out with just a full heart of understanding, of just being able to see so many different people. And I love to just immerse myself in the culture.
Well, and you will have a lot more in common with people than you might have thought if you're just willing to listen.
And I think more people should be more strategic and get out of their comfort zones. Because it is fun. Yeah. And it energizes me.
Yeah.
So, and I try to be more intentional about it because typically it's easier for us to not do that. When we get in the habit of not doing that, and then I think we miss out on a ton of relationships that are, some of my greatest friends that I've met by doing that. Yeah. Can you remember a moment when that conviction changed the way you handled a difficult situation? So we were talking about faith and, commanding love and loving your neighbor. Yes. Can you think of a moment when you had that conviction that changed how you handled a situation or a difficult situation?
Well, I think that when you act with honesty and integrity and hold yourself accountable for, not your ego getting in the way, but what's really right, it helps you, be honest. You're not going to change your standard of who you are and what you believe and your excellence, and you have to keep that in mind that that's what you are convicted as a person to believe. When you hold yourself accountable and you're not going to change, your standards for yourself, it might change how you invest in those relationships, and that's okay.
Yeah.
And knowing you have to have that belief in yourself that your intentions were pure and right.
You're very clear. Your values are honesty and integrity. Yeah. You've said that a couple times.
Yeah.
That is big for you. And I think most of us, if we sit for a minute, we get really clear on what that value is. And you're right, that's your standard, and you don't need to compromise on that.
Yeah.
Because when you do start to hang out with people that are not honest or not leading with integrity, it's easy for people to fall into that, just for a title or a position.
And you can't second guess yourself.
Correct.
You got to believe in you and what you're about, and you will be led into places and relationships that have that same value and see that value in you and respect that. It may be hard in the moment, but God's leading you where God's leading you, and He will open the right doors for you.
I totally agree with that. I think sticking to your values and maybe turning down a position or a role or money to maintain that is critical in long-term success.
Yeah.
And as a leader as well, right? Once you have compromised your integrity, that's it. You're not getting that back.
Well, or burned a relationship with somebody that you've invested a lot of time in.
It's a life of regret.
Yeah.
Yep. Let's talk about investing in people. One of your greatest gifts is making people feel seen. Where do you think that comes from? We kind of talked about this, but...
Okay, so I think it comes from my dad, and investing in those relationships and being true to yourself. It might not, as we talked about earlier, it might not, be rewarded in the moment, but if you invest in those relationships over time, it will. So when I was much younger, I was very politically involved, and I was really involved with Mark Luttrell's campaign.
Okay.
And so one of the things that I saw in him was how for a long time he invested in relationships with a lot of different people. And so he would always say, like, you need to look at the person and vote for the person, not the party. You need to look at the leader, and you're investing and supporting the leader. And so I think that being intentional and looking for people with the same values, motivations, or goals will help people feel seen.
Yeah.
I think that people are naturally drawn to that. And I think that's something that a lot of times we don't think about anymore because we're not that intentional. Everybody's like, let's quick
Just
sound
do it
bite.
fast and let's see what the surface is.
And so sometimes slowing down and really being intentional about what you're doing and where you're investing your time is really important.
Well, and one thing too that you just said just resonated with me too. It's like we just look at the leader for right now, but success leaves clues and leadership leaves patterns.
Yeah.
Leaves all these patterns of, and looking back and studying those things is also just as important, right? Because are they going to hold their values? Are they going to compromise on those values? And typically, if they've done it before, they're probably going to do it again.
Well, and how did they react to setbacks?
Yeah.
Because I teach Latin, and so you think like, oh my gosh, Latin, but what it really helps you do is look at leaders and look at how different leaders in the past have handled things, and how did they handle setbacks, and what did they do? Did they give up? What did they learn about themselves in the process? And how did leaders 100 years later, like in the American Revolution, study the past leaders and then use that to inform their decision making.
Yep.
Which I think is really cool.
I think that's fascinating.
Yeah.
Because you're studying models.
Yeah.
Right.
Your systems. Yeah.
Yes. And I love that. Keep talking over that all day long. So I wanted to, I didn't have this on here, but you brought up Latin. Why Latin? Like, what was that why you chose to teach Latin?
I think so. As again, I kind of fell into it. I was really, I've always been interested in history. And I'm a very analytical person. I want to know why.
Yeah.
I want to know why. I want to look at it at a granular level.
Give me the data.
Give me the data and let me make some decisions.
That's me.
And I really think that Latin gives me the opportunity to talk about all of those things with my kids.
Yeah.
And so, I say, oh yeah, I'm teaching Latin, but I'm really teaching. And it's so funny, alumni that come back and talk to me, they're like, yeah, I picked that up from, studying, I learned how to give a speech by reading Cicero. I learned about, being a leader and having a plan and being organized from Caesar, and so all those life lessons, it gives you an opportunity to talk about things without it having to be in a modern context.
Yeah.
Which as again, helps you kind of develop those values and
I might need to come take one of your class. I would absolutely love that.
Yeah, it's pretty cool.
That really is cool. And I've never thought about that.
Well, and warts and all. The Romans did some pretty terrible things. But if you think about the intentions of people and why they were doing what they were doing at the time and how people took those nuggets of things and then later on used it to build on it is really important.
That is fascinating to me, and I've never thought about a Latin class that way. You changed my perspective on that. So I know you've led countless numbers of students and faculty over the years. When did you realize your influence was bigger than just your job description?
Well, I always tell my kids to embrace your inner nerd. Whatever it is you're nerdy about, you need to just go do that. I think a lot of times especially with really smart kids, they just think that they're smart. And they think that they're just like naturally smart and whatever.
They're gifted.
But they don't realize the work it's going to take to be great.
Yeah.
And so helping them, like pointing them in the right direction, like, yeah, you're really smart, but here's the work, here's really what you could do with that. And here's the work it's going to take to get there. You can do it.
Yeah.
But you have to be willing to like build the skills now. To do the work, to put you in a place where that door will be open for you, I think is a real gift. It's funny, I think about this kid, Colin McLeod. He was one of 3 brothers who all got 36s on their ACT. Okay, brilliant family. And to watch each one of those brothers like go off and get a PhD in this or go off and get a PhD in that. And so, I sit and wonder, like, when you were sitting at Houston High School, like, did you think about the possible? And so I have a lot of conversations with, I think, especially with high achieving kids. They're like, oh my gosh, my parents want me to be a doctor, or my parents want me to go, be a lawyer, be whatever. And so, it doesn't have to be that way. Right?
Yeah.
You can make a lot of money doing
whatever
it is
called to do.
And you have to realize that whatever path you take is going to take a lot of work.
And that's, I would say that is really hard for brilliant children
to get,
because it's easy for them.
Yeah.
And if they don't have that, like, mentor that's like, hey, while this is easy, you're still going to have to work really hard.
Yeah.
To get to the thing that you want. Like, it's not going to come without hard work after school, because it's not just checking a box. You know what I mean? Like,
and if you think about it, so my husband's a chemistry professor, so he had kind of that same experience. Like, he was really smart. I knew him in high school. He was a really smart kid in high school. And, there's going to come a point in your life where it's like, put up or shut up.
Yeah.
And you're going to have to learn how to say no to things that don't serve you.
Yeah.
To be able to walk down the path that you're supposed to really be that 1%er or be that really high performer. You can't, and you may have to say no to things that you really valued or you really cared about, and you have to say, no, not right now.
Yeah.
I'm really focused on this, and that is really hard.
That is very hard to do. I am terrible at that because I want to say yes to everything.
Yeah.
And if it doesn't serve you in the moment, just understand that you're serving your time somewhere else that's not going to get you to where you want to go. And it's your choice.
Yeah.
It's everybody's choice. But that it's funny because I think I get frustrated when I see people that are so talented waste that talent. And
it's hard.
It is so hard because I just believe in everybody. And I fought my way through school. I was not a straight A student. It came so hard for me because I just saw things differently. I wanted to read the data. I wanted to understand the structure of how we were putting this together, and the traditional curriculum at the time didn't allow for that. It was like, you memorize this and you move on.
Yeah.
And I'm like, well, wait a minute. I'm like you. Like, I need to know why. Like, how did we get this all together?
Yeah.
But all that to say, I mean, it's funny because you have to have both.
Yeah.
And the hard work, I think, really, because I had to learn how to look at things differently, it forced me to work. I mean, I'll tell everybody, I'll outwork you. All day.
But somebody along the way taught you that.
Yeah, my dad. Yeah.
Somebody along the way, I mean, as Paul's PhD advisor taught me that. As my mom taught me that.
Yeah.
Like, you're going to have to work for...
Well, your grandmother.
Yeah, my grandmother. Yeah, you're going to have to work for whatever it is in life you want to get.
Yep.
And you can't give up. Like, usually, like, when it's, like, the hardest...
That's when everybody wants to bow out.
You can't bow out. You got to keep going.
Yeah.
And that's a really hard thing. You really have to dig deep inside yourself to, like, bring that forward.
Yep. And I think that's when you can anchor in what you're passionate about.
Yeah.
And somebody's helped you uncover that.
Yeah.
Then that's when you can go do great things, right? And because there's going to be so many roadblocks along the way. And I typically say this all the time. I as a believer, I'm like, the devil's going to put a roadblock in front of you real fast when you're doing great things. Yeah. And you might as well chalk it up as a learning experience. I said this morning, I was like, I just got served a slice of humble pie because I thought, I was like, oh, we're crushing it. And then I was like, all right, well, maybe not.
But that's okay. And tomorrow's a new day.
But it's like what you said. It's like, how fast can I bounce back?
Yeah.
You know, like how fast can I get back up? All right, I want to talk a little bit about culture.
Okay.
And forging culture. So what's something you've done intentionally to create the environment inside the Honors Academy?
Okay, so I'm going to talk leadership theory here with you just a little bit. So there are kind of two leadership theories that kind of anchor what we do in the Honors Academy. The first one is called Vroom's expectancy theory. Okay. And so what that means is if you expect greatness, greatness will come. And so, you know, I talk a lot about, like, Aristotle said, we are what we repeatedly do. Excellence is not an act, it's a habit. And so building that cultural value of whatever it is that you're good at, you're going to give 110% and you're not going to give up until it's done. I think it's really important.
It is.
And it's not in a burn yourself out kind of way. But it's, you know, if this is the goal that you want to get, you have to hold yourself to that standard every single day.
Every minute, actually.
Yeah, every single one. Yeah, every single minute. And keep that at the forefront of, you know, even when things are not going your way, that's your ultimate goal. And you got to keep that in mind. And that's hard. So the other kind of theory I think that kind of goes along with that as a leader is this theory called the path goal theory. And so as a leader leading other leaders, the path goals theory says that you help set the path, and then you, as a leader leading others, you know, change your relationship style or the way you lead to remove obstacles from other people. And where I would kind of add on to that is my goal is not to teach you how to not to remove the obstacle to make it easier, but to teach you how to keep going and work around those obstacles and navigate your path to get where you want to go.
Yep. Two things you said, because I actually said this on a call this morning. If you show up as average, you're going to get average.
Absolutely.
If you show up every day with a heart for greatness, you're going to get greatness.
Yeah.
And it doesn't matter what your IQ score is. It's how you show up,
yeah.
right? And so I absolutely love that. And then the removing obstacles, you're teaching them how to make the choice.
Yeah.
To navigate and where, you know, what they're going to remove or what they're not going to do, which empowers them as a leader, right?
Yeah. Well, and you know, I think about this kid this is a wild story. So I was in Washington D.C. this week, and so I called my congressman and I was like, I'd love a tour of the Capitol. And then I get a text back from a former student. It's like, hey, Dr. Simone, I'm giving you a VIP Capitol tour on Thursday. Yeah, great. It was awesome.
That's awesome.
And so, but what was neat is not that, you know, his name's Hughes Putnam and he's going to do great things in life. And so what was cool about it is, you know, we spent 3 hours talking about leadership. And he was like, you know, Dr. Simone, you put me in places that, like, were really uncomfortable sometimes and I didn't want to be there. And, but you saw it.
Yep.
So when he was a junior going to be a senior, there's a kind of a co-curricular organization called the Tennessee Junior Classical League, and you can run for office and things like that to be a leader of that organization. So this is a crazy story. So I told Hughes, I was like, Hughes, you need to run. I was like, you're going to be great. The organization really needs you, and I need you to do it. And he was like, okay. So he got his suit together, he got his speech together, he was really ready to go, and he had to stand up at the state convention and give the speech in front of 400 people, right? And he was a great public speaker. I wasn't really worried about it. But then I had another student who had a medical emergency. And so I had to go to the hospital with that student, and I was like, Hughes,
you got this.
You got this.
Yeah. I'll be right back.
I'll be right back. You got this. And he was like, and he was really nervous. I'm like, dude, you got this.
Yep.
And he went up there, he gave a speech. It was great. And, you know, and so he talked about you know, you thought I could do it before I thought I could do it. And I was like, Hughes, I knew you could do it.
Yep.
And he was like, but you, as a leader, put me in a place where I had to stand up and show up. And I think that's finding opportunities like that for kids at 16, 17, 18 years old, so that, you know, while they are under
They're getting developed.
Well, and they are under their safety nets in place, where if it doesn't go, then you can kind of regroup, is really important, because you're building those leaders now who are going to go do great things in the community later.
Which I was thinking of that too. We talk about this a lot just when developing and coaching and consulting. It's, I do it, so you've walked the path. So, and then we do it together, which is what you've done for that so many, but that young man specifically, because you were there doing it with them, coaching and all of those things. And then it was his time for him to go shine. Which is just, it seems so simple, but I'm like, that's exactly what it is, because you've walked the path, you've developed him, and now he's ready to go. Which is really fun. And I know for you, you probably felt pulled and wanted to be, all leaders do. And you want to be at both, but then sometimes that is the exact thing that needs to happen so that they know that they've got this and they can run. And that's what, that is a defining moment for you, mentoring a leader.
Absolutely.
Tell me about leadership decision that didn't go the way you had hoped. What did that experience teach you about yourself?
Well, I think it taught me that I have to be true to myself.
Okay.
And that sometimes it's not going to go your way. But as long as you're true to yourself, it's going to be okay. And if you just keep, walking with integrity and putting the work in every day, what is meant for you will be for you.
I totally agree. And I also believe that we don't see it in the moment, but the door that's shut or the door that we decide to close is there, it's there for a reason.
Absolutely.
Well, I'm like, I will not proceed. If I feel like if it keeps happening, I know that it is not the path that I'm supposed to be walking.
Well, and
don't love it all the time.
And a friend told me that was pretty wise, and he was like, you need to invest in the relationships that invest in you. And so if a door closes, that time or whatever wasn't meant for you to invest in, and so you need to invest in the relationships that invest in you.
And really, it's kind of a protection thing for people's personality, like yours and myself. Because we're just like,
I'll invest in everybody.
And then all of a sudden we have no more fuel in our tank. We're empty, right? You spend your days surrounded by teenagers, young kids. What's something one of your students taught you this year or one of the years? Like, what stands out to you? Like, what have they taught you?
This is kind of a simple thing, but I have a student that I've worked with, when you get to be with people for several years, you get to really know them. And one of the things that I've learned from a kid this year is that he'll come up to me and go, "I got you, Dr. Simone, I got you." And it is a really special thing, because I know that means to me that he's going to do whatever it takes to get whatever it needs to get done. And so while it may seem impossible to me, it may seem impossible to him, that he is committed, or that child is committed to making sure that he follows through on his word. As a part of a community, that's really important.
That's so important.
When you make that commitment to somebody, that's your commitment to follow through. And it's neat to watch people build communities around kids who need it. And when they make that commitment to a child like that, he's had people stand up for him, and so that makes you more likely to go through the wall for somebody else.
Y'all have done that at a very high level within the Leadership Academy. I mean, I've seen it, and y'all have built the communities around so many different families, and y'all continue to do that even after they graduate.
Absolutely. Well, and it's so neat to watch. If you look at how, and it's lots of different communities, and being willing to, like, when you don't know what to do anymore as a leader, and the kid doesn't know what to do anymore as a leader, like, being patient, and just thinking, like, what else could we do? Someone else will show up. Someone else will show up to help, and you don't know exactly what that might look like, but someone else will show up and help you if you just, like, listen and are still. And I think that's one thing that I've really learned, is that as much as I love to outwork anybody just like you do, sometimes you need to be still and look around. Because help is coming. You just have to be willing to kind of look at
pay attention to
what's going on.
I mean, I've said recently, I think a lot of leaders need strategic thinking, quiet time. Because we don't give ourselves enough of that, and we miss the solution or the person with the idea, because we
were too busy going like this.
We were too busy going like that. And oftentimes that might not be the right path or the right direction or right solution, right? And then we learn the hard way, and then we get back in line, right? That's what I say. I'm like, that was not the best idea. So you've spent your career helping young people become leaders. When one of them graduates, what's one lesson or value you hope they will carry with them?
be accountable to yourself and be great in what you choose to do. You know, you can do anything that you want to do as long as you're willing to work for it.
I like the accountability. It all starts with self.
Absolutely.
Like, I see so many people that like want to be held accountable, and I'm like, you can't be held accountable. Like,
no, you got to hold yourself
accountable. You got to hold yourself accountable. Nobody's walking in your shoes, you know, every second of the day.
Well, and you have to know, it goes back to your values, you have to know what you're about. Like, I have a very clear understanding about who I am.
Yeah.
Like, and what I am, and what my weaknesses are.
Correct.
And, you know, once you have figured that out, walking in that path, like, as I said before, you'll know what's for you and what's not.
Yep. Gets so much clearer and easier to make choices.
Yeah.
And I think this too, a lot of the times I tell everybody, like, the world tries to dictate your values, your beliefs, your time, all of those really core foundational leadership things, skills. And the best thing that you can do is to hone in on it internally and then take the world on. Because doing it from the outside in, it's gonna take you in the wrong place.
Well, and realize that you are the writer of your own story.
Yeah.
It's not somebody else's path.
Yep.
It's your journey is yours. And so you need to be where your feet are.
Yep.
And walk down that path confidently. And you know, obviously there's going to be twists and turns along the way. You might get turned around a little bit, but you have to know that the story that you're writing is your own. And uniquely yours.
Uniquely yours, and be proud of that.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
All right. Balancing leadership, marriage, motherhood, mentoring, and serving the community, because I know you do that as well. What have you had to learn about giving yourself grace?
You know, the phrase goes, like, don't let perfect be the enemy of good enough. I think that it's really easy to be like, I'm going to stay until this is perfect. Right? And it's never
going to be perfect.
And that's okay.
Yeah.
You have to build people in your life that kind of hold you accountable to that.
Or you'll just keep trying.
Keep trying. And so having that friend group or whatever it is, you know, to be honest with you, like really honest with you, I think is a really powerful thing.
Yep.
And to know, you know, a lot of times having friends that see that need in you before, you know, that something's going crazy before you do, and is willing to like pick up the slack or redirect or whatever it is, you know, just like my grandmother showing up, you know, with her soup to her friend's house just to chat, like having other people in your circle that are willing to be that person for you is a really powerful thing.
It really is. And I think that when we do a lot, right? Like, so, and I've realized, like, when I've gotten out of alignment, I'm desiring to get back to those relationships. Because I typically, because of time, if I'm doing 5,000 things, I then don't have that relationship as much or that conversation as much, and I'm not with them. And then it's like all of a sudden I get to be like in front of them and be in the relationship. I'm like, God, I needed this. Like, what am I doing? Like, why am I cutting that time out?
It's hard to be vulnerable sometimes because you're just going 110 miles an hour all the time. And so, you know, you need friends in your life or your spouse or whoever it is to be like,
mine will do it.
You know, like
right now this week, it's been a rough week with reentry coming back from vacation, and they're like, you have overdone it. And I'm like, yeah, I know, I'm sick. And I started like getting, you know, sick, and everybody, well, they tell me really quickly, this is your doing.
Yeah.
What are you going to do to get back in alignment? And I'm like, okay.
Well, and to invest, you know, are you investing in things? You know, I always talk about like you need to invest in people, you need to invest in your family. And like keeping the main thing. You need people in your life to be like, hey man, you turned right.
Yeah.
You know, like you need to remember that this is really where your focus should be. And like, are your actions
backing that focus up?
And it's hard, especially, you know, high achieving, really driven people to take that step back and go, hey man.
Yeah.
You know, like
I start to look at my calendar and I'm like, priorities are way off here.
Yeah.
You know, like I just start to see it and I'm like, okay, this is on me.
Yeah.
You know, and my poor executive assistant, Michelle, and I've talked to her, she gets really mad at me. She's like, we're not doing that. And I'm like, okay, thanks. I mean, and I appreciate it because I have to have that.
Yeah.
You know?
And they
it's
were
people
like,
that care about you.
how did you think that was going to work?
Yeah.
Like, you know, like,
No.
how did you think you were going to be in 3 places in one time?
They really point that out.
And
you
being
need them
able to
to.
kind of, accept that feedback.
I'll just start laughing. I'm like, you're right. That's it. Yes, that's right.
Or even things like, you know, my husband's like, you know, do you realize that we've eaten out every meal for like a week? Like, because we need to like eat not, you know, not like I expect you to cook at home more, but like that intentional family time doesn't need to be at Tacos for Life. You know, like,
which is basically what I've done all week. So that's also how I'm out of alignment.
But having somebody that's willing to be
call you on it,
and you being okay to be like, hey man, I got it. Okay.
Yeah. Good point.
Good point.
Yeah. I'm gonna walk away now and process that.
But I'm sure it's really hard as a person supporting a really high functioning leader like that. Like, to be that friend has to be really hard. And we should be really grateful.
We are very grateful because we're very stubborn, persistent, and moving quickly. Yeah. All right, lightning round. One word you would describe your leadership style.
Humility.
I love that. I think a lot of leaders are humble.
Yeah.
And I said humble pie just a minute ago because I had to eat that. But I kind of start laughing because I don't take myself too seriously. Like, having, humility is a key trait that I think a lot of leaders miss. Because it also tells you you're not perfect.
Well, and like sometimes you are so into a situation or into something that like you don't even know. Yeah. You know what I mean? Like, it's not that you're trying, it's just who you are.
Yeah.
And so
I just laugh about it. I'm like,
being willing to be like, oh, okay, I need to take a minute. Self-awareness is really important.
And then being able to see that and being humble about that is so important. As ego is truly the enemy. Yeah. In all things. And it will limit you whether you realize it or not. Morning routine that you never skip.
I have a playlist that I play on the way to school or wherever I'm going. Okay. That's like my pump up playlist.
Do we revamp it every month?
Oh yeah, it depends on what's going on. And it's a wide variety.
What genre of music are we talking?
It's a wide variety of things, depending on, you think about like, I have special songs that mean special things throughout my life. And so, and sometimes, it's like a whole mix of things on my Apple Music thing. Yeah. And so sometimes the music that comes on is like the message that you need in that day. Moment. Yeah. Which I think is really cool. I think music is very powerful.
Music it fuels my soul. During the good times and the bad times. I'm like, all right, I needed that.
And it helps you kind of create that. I think you have to go into every day with a really calm mind. Mm-hmm. You cannot operate with your mind crazy. Mm-hmm. And so, having that as part of your routine and to go in, having regulated your emotions or whatever it is, helps you face whatever challenges of the day and compartmentalize. Like, I'm headed here to like on this mission to operate, and I can leave everything else that I'm worried about in the car. Mm-hmm.
And I'll get back to AC/DC when I get back to the car.
When I get back to the car.
I'll pump myself up on the way home.
And I'm sure that, like, because, I live very close to Houston. I have a 7-minute commute. I'm sure that people in the car line are just like...
I can get behind that. My kids... I love to blast music and sing at the top of my lungs. I don't care if I look like a crazy person. And my kids are so embarrassed, and I'm like, I'm just going to increase the volume.
But it's also some sort of endorphin release, too, that kind of gets you kind of pumped up for the day.
I could get behind that playlist. Favorite Latin phrase and why?
So there's a phrase that was actually first attributed to Hannibal, who was the guy that crossed the Alps against the Romans. But anyway, he said, "Winiam, I will find a way, or I will make one." Oh, yeah.
Love that.
It's pretty good.
Find a way, or I will make one. Man, I love that.
And so it kind of helps you think, like, you may look at your options and go, none of these are good. But if you keep working, you'll make a way to.
I love that. I might need to get that.
I have a shirt. I have shirts.
I love that. A book every leader should read.
I have 2. First one is Good to Great by Collins.
Yeah.
I think that was one of the first books I read on my kind of leadership educational journey, and just the idea of you need to have the right people on the bus in the right places and have an idea that you are not willing to let go of about who you are and what you're about is really important. The other one is Grit by Angela Duckworth.
Gosh, that's just one of my favorites.
Oh my word! The idea that, and that I think that goes back to our like data analytical nerd. The idea that effort counts twice, and that your willingness to work and invest in things and relationships or in a project provides double dividends is amazing.
And to me, for somebody that did struggle with academics, and I worked my tail off, that book resonated with me a lot.
Yeah. But you think about it like, whether you're playing a sport or you're in the classroom or you're working on a project, the effort that you put in is going to be the output that comes. So
loved it. I love both of those books. Both great book recommendations. One thing your students would be surprised to know about you.
So I did not, as I told you earlier, I did not intend to become a Latin teacher. I grew up as a singer. I really wanted to study opera when I went to UT.
Really?
And my parents told me I needed to get a real job. And so, I needed to do something that could always pay the bills.
Yeah.
And so I sang in a bunch of ensembles and things like that at UT. And they're like, you will always have that avocation. That can always be your passion. But just because it's your passion doesn't mean it needs to be your job.
Yeah.
And that was a really big life lesson, to always do something that will make sure that you can provide for yourself. That was a really big life advice.
Do you still sing?
Absolutely.
That's why your love for music and all of those things. That makes complete sense. All right, last but not least, so we're talking about singing, and I had to ask every guest, what's your favorite karaoke song?
You're going to laugh at this one. It's called The Gambler by Kenny Rogers.
Okay.
You got to know when to hold them, know when to fold them.
Love that song. That's a great one.
But that's a great leadership lesson in itself.
It is. That's a great one. Well, thank you for being on this today. I so appreciate it. And I adore who you are, your leadership journey, and you just continue to pour into so many of our city's youth, and it's so important.
It is.
So thank you for doing that.
Thanks for having me.
If this episode resonated with you, please share with somebody in your world. I would love for you to hit the subscribe button as well. I'm your host, Sarah Layson. Step up. I'm your host, Sarah Layson. Step up and serve well, friends.
That was great.